Nos amenazó. Dijo que le iba a contar a los amigos poderosos del padre y nos iba a destruir a todos. A vos, a mí, a las chicas. Y yo nunca voy a poner en riesgo a nuestra familia, Alex. No tuvimos más remedio, el borde le tuvo que disparar. Pronto va a haber nuevas perspectivas de trabajo. Dame un voto de confianza, hijo. Que espero que Dios no me permita defraudarte.
Welcome to Kermode Uncut. I did a blog a couple of weeks ago when The Clan came out on DVD, and I was talking about the fact that that's a really, really sort of scary and unsettling film with this brilliant central performance by Guillermo Francella, who is best known up until The Clan for being a comedian. And I was asking if you could think of other examples of people that you basically know for making you laugh, taking a different path on screen, whether it's doing serious roles or roles that are creepy and scary. There has been loads and loads of responses to this. Here are just a few of them. I should say at the beginning, several people flagged up Peter Sellers in being there. Also, Never Let Go, that turned up a few times. Lots and lots of mentions for Jim Carrey in The Truman Show and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and of course Billy Connolly for Mrs. Brown. However, here are a few that are a little more off the beaten track. So this from Anthony Quinn, Chris Tucker, with some memorable performances in Jackie Brown and Dead Presidents. I'm including this because thank you for mentioning Dead Presidents, a film which really does get overlooked and is one of the most important films of that decade. As far as I'm concerned, that's the movie that got forgotten in the 1990s. So thanks for flagging that up. This from Connor Nolan. Steve Martin in David Mamet's The Spanish Prisoner, a really untalked about film, owes so much to the Hitchcock style of thriller, but also with a fantastic central performance by Steve Martin. That suave, sophisticated man where you learn of his layers as the film goes by. Also, Shop Girl is superb, and there were in fact many mentions on the blog of Shop Girl. This I particularly like from Simon B. He flags up several performances, but says most notably, Michael Palin cast against type in Brazil. I have the great honour of turning up very briefly in Michael Palin's diary. It's like one entry in which I interviewed him about the fact that I thought some of his best roles were his darkest roles, and he seemed sort of quite thrilled about this. And in Brazil, as the torturer, he is absolutely chilling, and it's a brilliant role. Thanks for flagging that one up. This from List Dodo. My vote goes to Richard Pryor in Paul Schrader's excellent Blue Collar. This is a very good call. A film revolving around a group of friends and co-workers in the Detroit auto industry. His co-stars were Harvey Keitel and Yaphet Kotto. It's well worth seeking out, and it's a shame Pryor didn't get to do more straight roles. Again, in many ways, Blue Collar is really the basis of the whole of the rest of Schrader's canon. I shared a lift with Paul Schrader at Cinema and Media Studies Conference in Atlanta recently. He didn't say hello, but then he was kind of cross about my review of that film he made, The Canyons. Never mind. On to this from Annie Mouse. She says Eric Bana in Munich and Hannah also deserves a mention, as indeed does Chopper. I remember introducing Chopper on the Film 4 Extreme channel, and I had never seen Eric Bana before. I had no idea that he was a comedian. And I was really startled because it's such a brutal and raw role and fantastic performance by Eric Bana, but I was really surprised to find out that Eric Bana was known as a jovial, jolly chappie elsewhere. This from some sort of literature student, one that's often overlooked, and I have to say forgotten about by me, is the strange and wonderful instance of John Cleese in Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. You know, you're completely right. And I had completely forgotten that John Cleese was in that film. Few more suggestions which really caught my eye from Helen F. Olivia Colman in Tyrannosaur. I loved her comic roles, but that performance just floored me. And 5 years on, I'm still incredulous that didn't get a nomination from BAFTA. It is a brilliant performance because Olivia Colman is one of those people who does both comedy and straight roles and seems born to play both. I don't actually primarily think of her as a comedian. I always think of her as an actor. Many people also pointed out that Takeshi Kitano is a bit of a strange case. This from Kevin. Takeshi Kitano was part of a Japanese comedy duo before playing the sadistic cant guard in Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence. You can see the use of his comic timing in his direction and acting in the gangster hiding out masterpiece Sonatine. I have to confess, I remember working at Sight and Sound when we were first reviewing Takeshi Kitano movies, and this constantly came up, the subject of you do understand that he's known as a comedian first and foremost. Again, something which I didn't know about because I first knew him through his film work. This from Babyface Michael, and this is a very good call. Charlie Chaplin as the ice-cold killer in Monsieur Verdoux. How could you forget that? People always forget that Charlie Chaplin did indeed play a serial killer in Monsieur Verdoux, a film which was absolutely torn apart by the press, but now is looked back on not just as an oddity, but as something which represents a direction that Chaplin's career could perhaps have gone in. It's a very strange, very uncomfortable work. I mean, comedic elements, definitely, but yep, he's a killer. And I'm going to end with this from Party Poison. Sergei Lopez as the horrific captain in Pan's Labyrinth. His scene with the stuttering man still sends shivers down my spine. People seem to forget that he was a family-friendly comedic actor in Spain before Guillermo del Toro changed all that. And Party Poison also points out Monique in Precious. And actually, I think this is perhaps the best call. Just watched it recently the other day for the first time since it came out and forgot how tremendous that performance is. Wow. No laughing matter indeed.